That smile was bitter. What's wrong with Jimin? That smile, strange. Seems too forced. Even though it should be a happy moment, a light moment, just a short greeting to the camera to greet the fans. But there is something that cannot be ignored. Only 10 seconds of the clip were in circulation, yet enough to raise concerns. Jimin's face, which was usually warm and full of energy, appeared this time stiff. The look in his eyes did not follow the curve of his lips. The smile didn't get there. Fans, as usual, did not take long to retrace the archives of her old clips, juxtaposing the expression of the moment with such a sincere old smile. The comparison hurts. Something went wrong, wrote one fan on X. Look how his jaw tenses when he smiles, as if holding something back. Other comments even mentioned that the expression felt more like a request for help in its quietest form. This is not the first time Jimin's body language has been completely dissected. But this time it's different. It wasn't just a gesture or expression. It was an inexplicable tremor, a feeling that slipped between his pauses. And all this comes amid news that has been circulating for a long time. Delayed solo tours, suddenly frozen projects, to allegations of inequality in treatment from the company. Not a few are starting to connect the pieces. Especially after several times it was seen that Jimin no longer appeared with Jungkook and Taehyung on several important occasions. Fans are wondering, where did he go? Why isn't he coming? And what makes the heart shake the most? Is he deliberately kept away? Posts on Instagram are becoming less frequent. And when it does, it's often poetic. It's sad. It's like a fragment of a feeling that can't be expressed openly. His captions seem to speak in silence. A low-key in the noisy industry. Some fans even said, Jimin doesn't need us to interpret everything. He just needs us to understand. And they were right, because behind every seemingly simple action, there seemed to be a much heavier burden than he allowed people to see. The hashtag #ProtectJimin has been trending in various countries. Hashtag #LetJimin and hashtag #RespectJimin emerged not just as a form of defense, but a cry that grew out of despair and collective guilt, because those who loved her felt like they had failed to recognize the subtle cry early. And perhaps the most painful thing is not a fake smile, but that silence is too long. No statement from Jimin, no clarification from the agency, only emptiness. And in the void, speculation flourishes like fire on a dry field. Rumors continued to blow that in fact Jimin's team was ready for a solo project a long time ago, but was held back. That important decisions no longer involve him. That he, for some reason, is no longer given the same space. Some even mentioned, anonymously, that Jimin was asked to wait, and continue to wait, until the time is right. A word that sounds sweet but can be so cruel if used to delay one's freedom. But in all those limitations, Jimin still carried himself calmly. There were no public protests.
No blatant insinuaciones.
Only sincerity. He never let go. Even when the world seemed to no longer prioritize him one by one, fans are remembering the past. When Jimin is still the center of attention, when his voice fills the space, when all eyes are on him not out of pity, but out of admiration. Then they stared at the present day, as Jimin seemed to drift away, not because he wanted to, but because he was slowly being pushed aside. Why is he like a shadow now? Asked a fan in a long, cutting thread. He was the brightest light. The sentence echoed far away, because there really is a big change, not just in Jimin, but in the relationship between fans and the system that houses their idols. In the past, fans could only accept what was offered. Now they're demand justice, equal space, and rewards that are not wrapped in false imagery. And in the midst of all that doubt, a message appears that makes the heart choke. A sentence from Jungkook via the Weverse platform. If you hurt him, you hurt me. The sentence, although short, felt like an explosion. Support that is not only personal but also political. It was as if he was conveying a message that Jimin could not say for himself, that he was not alone, and that there is someone who still stands by his side, even when the voice of the world is too crowded to hear the whisper of his heart. Now all that remains is a question. Will Jimin speak? Will the company listen? Or will it be the story of an artist who is slowly silenced by the system that is supposed to protect her? Whatever happens later, one thing is clear: the army will not stand still. They are not just spectators. They are voices. They are witnesses. And as long as Jimin survives, they'll survive with him, because it's no longer just about music. It's about justice, about the confession, about the right of a human being to shine without having to ask permission. A few hours after the clip became widespread, many were waiting for clarification. But there was no explanation, no upload, no digital greeting from Jimin as usual. For some fans, this is a silent alarm. For others, it's the silence they've seen too many times from this one artist. But Jimin is not just silent. It's like pulling yourself together in a very subtle way. His schedule began to be rarely announced. It is not seen in some promotional content that should present all members. Even in large group activities, the camera's glare on him begins to diminish. Many ask, is this intentional? But even more painful, is he the one who chooses to retreat, or is he forced to disappear little by little? Some fans try to think positively. Maybe he's just exhausted. Maybe he needs some time to himself. But day by day, that narrative can no longer be sustained. Because that smile, which feels more like a defensive reflex than an expression of happiness, hints that there are wounds that can't be hidden with makeup or choreographic rehearsals. Meanwhile, rumors about favoritism are increasingly widely heard. Several other members' solo projects appear to be gaining full support, with dedicated promotional teams, extensive media schedules, and aggressive global distribution. Meanwhile, Jimin, who was once referred to as the face of BTS by many international media, appeared quiet. It was as if his turn was suddenly skipped. It was as if his achievements and contributions no longer mattered. Something has changed, wrote a former staffer in a closed community forum. And the change didn't come from Jimin. The phrase left many fans transfixed. Because if true, then all the sweet gestures on stage, all the compliments of management, and all the fake smiles neatly arranged in the official broadcast are just illusions. A stage play where only a few know the real story. But as usual, the army did not stand still. They started emailing companies, creating open petitions, and organizing support campaigns. They wrote letters, made banners, even put up ads in train stations and large buildings that read, "Let Jimin shine again." But what they are waiting for is not really an answer from the management. They were waiting for Jimin himself. Jimin, who had been known for his humility and loving attitude, began to feel distant. Some fans even noticed that her last post was full of metaphors, poems about rain falling in the morning, or the sky feeling heavy even if it's not cloudy. It speaks, indeed, but through code. And only those who really pay attention can catch the meaning. One of the uploads shows his hand tightly clutching a flower that looks wilted. His caption was just one word: still. That alone is enough to thrill the fan community. Still holding on? Still hurt? Still hoping? They knew Jimin would not voice his anger clearly. But they also knew if it got to this point, that the wound was deep enough. It was so painful that he could no longer pretend. And behind all that, one bitter truth emerges. Love alone is not enough to protect a person from a harsh system. Even someone as talented and sincere as Jimin can be marginalized if he does not continue to sell. If he does not continue to satisfy expectations. The world of entertainment does not always leave room for those who stop for a moment to breathe. It demands constantly, mercilessly. But Jimin's fans are different. They didn't ask Jimin to smile if he was being destroyed. They didn't want him to dance if his body refused. They just want him to know that there is a safe place, a place where he doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be strong all the time. A place where he can rest without feeling guilty, because for them, Jimin is not just an idol. He is a friend in silence. Solace when the world is heavy. Jimin's smile was a light to many, and seeing that light begin to dim made them feel like failures as his guardians. It all depends on Jim's next move. Will he take back his space? Will the company let him talk? Or will it end up as a story about great talent forgotten, not so much because of shortcomings, but because it is too soft for a noisy industry?